Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial on percents and their application. We're going to take a look at some things that are used in everyday life. You're going to find situations where you've got to convert to a percent from a decimal. In this case we have 0.832. So what would that look like as a percent? What you have to do here is to move this decimal point over 2 spots and then add your percent. So what you end up with is 83.2. Add the percent sign. What you're effectively doing here is multiplying 0.832 times 100. That's giving you 83.2%. Okay, let's look at something that often gets people in a bit of trouble. Converting a fraction to a decimal. In this particular case, we have 1/4%. That's not a quarter of some number like 10 or 20. It's a quarter of 1%. So what do? The first thing you do is divide the denominator into the numerator. 4 goes into 1, doesn't. Goes into 10 though 2 times, which leaves you with an 8 and 2 left over. 4 goes into 2, not at all, but if you carry a 0 down here, 4 will go into 20 5 times. Okay, so we know 1/4 is going to be 0.25 of something. I know it's point because we couldn't put it into 1. But it's 0.25 of 1%. 1%, remember, looks like this. 0.01. 1/4 of 1% means that we have something less than that. 0.00. We don't have 1%. We have less than 1%. 1/4 is 0.25. So 1/4 of 1% is 0.0025. Okay, what happens when we want to convert to fractions from a percent? In this case, we have a mixed number, mixed percents. It's what we're going to, mixed fractions is what we're going to deal with. So we've looked at this in previous tutorials, and what you have to do is first multiply the denominator times the whole number, then add 1. So 2 times 71 is 42, plus 1 is 43. 143. 143 over 2. Okay, but we want to make this into a fraction. So we have to further this by multiplying the whole thing times 1/100th. Because we were dealing with decimals here and percents. So now we've got 143 times 1 is 143. And 2 times 100 is 200. And there we have it, 143 over 200. If you could simplify this further, you would, but 143 over 200 is as simple as we can take it. All right, let's go on to the next unit and try to solve some applications with percents. In our example over here, we've got 430, and we want to know what 430 is, what percentage that is of 5,000. The way to solve that is to divide 430 into 5,000. Now, you can use your calculator for this one to keep things simple, and you're going to find the answer is 0.086. But we're sitting here with a decimal. This is not a percent yet. In order to make it a percent, you have to move the decimal over 2 spots and then add your sign. 8.6%. 430 is 8.6% of 5,000. Let's take a look at another one. If we have a situation where in 2003 Tim Hortons had 300,000 in donut sales. Let's just write that down. In 2003, I always like to write down the key information bits because often you'll find the equations will just fall out from that. We have 300,000. And now what happens? In 2004, sales were up. Up means you're going to add. 2004, we are up 40%. What are the sales in 2004? We need to solve for the total sales in 2004. So 300,000 plus 40%. How do we do that? We multiply 300,000 times 0.40. 40% is 0.40. 4% would be 0.04. 40%, and that's going to equal 4 times 3 is 12. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. I could put 6 in. And the final 2 are after the decimal point. So you could almost drop them here. All right, we add these two together and we find out the total sales are $420,000. That decimal point is starting to indicate pennies now. There were 0 pennies involved. 40% of 300,000, you multiply it to result in 120,000.00, no pennies. You add the two together to get total sales of $420,000. Let's take a look at another example. This one's a little tricky here, but often used. You'll see this in many different situations. If you have 5 out of 25 students receiving an A, so we have 5 get an A, and we know the total in the class is 25. 5, some other number equals 25. You can subtract the 5 from the 25, and that means 20 people did not get an A. But we want to know what percent of the class did not receive an A. Well, in order to do that, we know that 100% of the class over here, 100%, grand total of the class is 25. So we have to figure out what percent 5 is of 25 and 20 is of 25. So 5 divided by 25 and 20 divided by 25. The sum of these two will equal 100%. 5 goes into 25, a total of 20% of the grand total. 5 goes into 20 and then 5, 20%. 20 goes into 25 then, 80% of the time, to give you a total of 100%. There we have it. All right, what about this last question here? This one's really tricky. This time we've got a price of a liter of gas in the current week at 0.669. That happens to be 2% lower than last week. What is the price for last week? Okay, let's take a little look at this. We know that 699 is greater than, lower than last week. So what do we have to do? We have to divide 1, subtract how much the difference is, 0.02. Not 20%, 2%, 0.02. So we see that this is going to be higher than this. 1 subtract 0.02 is 0.98. It's higher at 699. What does this end up with? We find a solution of 0.713. That is the price of gas last week. How can we test that out to make sure that that's right? Well, let's take what we found as our solution, 0.713. And let's multiply that times 2%. What does that give you? 0.014. Take 0.713, subtract 0.014, and lo and behold, you're going to get 699. This week's price, last week's price. It all worked. Hope this has helped you to understand how to use percents and their applications.